Hey there, and welcome back to the OBM Show, where we pull back the curtain on what it really takes to build a business as an online business manager. Today, I'm chatting with the lovely Milani Lau, an accredited OBM systems thinker and mom of two who went from underpaid VA work to building a streamlined OBM business that actually supports her lifestyle, her income goals, and her family. So before stepping into the OBM role, Milani was stuck in the cycle so many service providers know too well, constantly hustling, charging too little, and doing way more than what was in the scope. She knew she was bringing real strategic value, but getting treated like a task doer. So in this episode, we talk about how Milani shifted out of that space, landed her first OBM client during accreditation, and started running her business with the same intentionality that she brings to her clients. She nearly tripled her income, works fewer hours, and no, it definitely didn't happen overnight. So if you're in that in-between phase where you're doing OBM level work, but still straddling VA land, you're going to love this one. Let's get into it. Welcome, Milani, to the show. I feel like this is such a long time coming.
It is. It is. I think it's been almost 2 years from when I first encountered you and OBM School. So yeah.
Feels so much longer than that. Has it really only been 2 years?
It has. I was looking back at the calendar and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was only 2 years ago, but it felt a lot longer.
Yeah, it felt a lot longer because I think even before you joined the accelerator, we were still like very much
Yes.
in communication, and you were, debating whether or not the OBM role was right for you. So now, 2 years later, after joining OBM school, what can you say about your experience? Just in like, because I mean, the context here for our listeners and people watching is that I also, I feel like a lot of us take a lot of time. So I just want to kind of look today and speak about some of the things that really hold us back from like making these big changes in our lives, even though it is the right decision for you and you can, somewhere inside, you can do it.
Yeah. So I guess I kind of reflected back on like where I was and where I am now. And there wasn't like a clear delineation. I was like, okay, it was a natural progression. But I think some of the big leaps were like deciding, is this what I want to do? Do I want to move from the stuff I'm doing as a VA to OBM? And then it was, oh, do I want to go from whatever I was doing to go into an accreditation program? And it was just like little steps and just little things that happened. But yeah, it's always the feast or famine. I feel like when you're a VA, it's either you have no time and because you're constantly working with clients, but then you don't have clients. And then it's like, oh, wait, now I have no clients to work with. So I'm just picking up scraps like, oh, yeah, I'll do that for $25. Or, oh, yeah, I'll help you do this. And now it's a lot more. What is the word I'm looking for?
Holding out for the right ones.
Yes, and it's a lot less stressful because I have a solid base of some retainers, and then it's if I want to take on a project, I can, and I can charge whatever I want for it and not worry about, hey, am I feeding my family? It was never that bad, but that like feeling that like I don't know how to describe it. It's like in your chest, like, oh, like
Yeah,
what are we gonna do if I don't get clients in the next couple
it's,
months, sort of thing. I don't have that.
it's that scarcity mindset of like, oh, it's
Yes.
going to pan out, and then it's just constantly spinning our wheels. And I know that because, as many of you guys know here listening and watching, I also came from, the this, I wouldn't even say that I was, and I feel like you also maybe never called yourself a VA per se, but I was definitely, before my OBM days, sort of that catch-all admin. I mean, this was back 2009, so the online space and clients were very different, but I know that cycle, that cyclical, nauseating, oh my God, now I have my rosters full, I have no time. And then you lose a client and you really feel it because you're just meeting your income requirements, or maybe not even that. So you mentioned that you have retainer clients now and you're very comfortable with your retainer clients. What do those clients look like in contrast to what the VA clients look like? I mean, aside from the rates, which we already sort of touched on, they're obviously paying you more, but how have the services changed? How has your role evolved?
So I went from being here, I'm going to vent to you and tell you all my problems, and here, go do this. And oh, I have this idea, go do that. And like this, like kind of that phrase I think you used, catch all. It was just like I was trying, even because I did have retainer clients when I was a VA, but they weren't the same. They treated me differently and they didn't value a lot of the things I had to say. And they definitely underpaid me. But the people I'm choosing to work with now, they value me. Because I have made lots of mistakes with some of these clients and they are totally understanding.
We're human, right? We're solving problems. It's not about being
Yes.
per se.
Well, and it's like previous VA clients, they expect a very specific deliverable, and then you're done, you're over with, they move on. Or if you do have a retainer, they almost expect it. I feel like the less people charge, the more they expect you to be perfect. I've noticed that. And so I'm kind of to the point, I'm like, I think I'm just going to start charging more for things just so that I work with the right kind of people who also have that like mindset of, I'm not trying to get the best bargain for my buck. It has to be perfect. Because I've noticed people that kind of scarcity in their business and in their life. Because I've been there too. I mean, I still sometimes, and it's not like a sudden night and day difference. Like I'm still like, I still bargain shop, and like, I'm going to get the best deal. But I'm also like now, for example, my personal life, I don't know if you see the watercolors behind me.
Yeah, I love that.
I went out and I bought from an indigenous owned, like these beautiful watercolors. Like I would have just bought like whatever the cheapest, but like I'm spending like $10 on a little thing. And I'm like, I have that in my personal life and in my business life. It kind of is all, what is the word I'm looking for? It's like all connected. And so when I'm working with people that they've got scarcity in like their business and in their personal life, they treat me the same way. So they're always try to get as much work out of me for as little as possible. Whereas people who value what I have to give them, they value me. And so then when I'm like, oh, this wasn't perfect, or because like when I buy these, handmade paints, guess what? Handmade paints are not perfect.
No.
Right? When you get something that's handmade, but yet the value in it is so beautiful. I could get something that's perfect, right? But
a one of a kind. It's like how we look at these businesses. They need one of a kind solutions, one of a kind, all the way, bespoke kinds of ways of dealing in their business. And also, I mean, it's just a beautiful thing. It's interesting because when you mentioned about the VA work, when did you sort of start to feel that it was off? Because obviously, when we work with clients at the beginning, and then you have the realization of, oh, this is an OBM client. I don't want to talk about that because I know that you've been really, knacking the right kind of clients now. But what was that feeling when it started to feel off? Because, when you're doing all the same kind of work for these clients as a VA, they're all kind of the same. Like, what was that moment where you realized maybe what you were actually doing for clients wasn't being recognized, or things started feeling off? When was that precise moment that sort of happened for you?
Well, I think it was a series of things that all kind of happened because I helped right before I first heard about what an OBM was. I had helped a friend of mine who was also a client. I was in her membership. She's a graphic designer. I helped her with this big launch she was doing. And I realized I was doing all of this strategic planning and helping her with this launch. And I was also doing a lot of this stuff too. And I realized, I'm like, oh, this was more than just being a VA. And then I had another client that kept underpaying me. And there was a summer when, and this may have been after I had joined Accelerator, because I don't think I fully made up my mind until I was actually in Accelerator.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember you.
I think I had a hard time deciding the difference of what a VA and an OBM was because I was so entrenched in both. Like I was doing the VA tasks. Someone would give me a task, goes, hey, go do this. But then with most of my clients, I was making suggestions and saying, hey, you could do this so much better. Like I see the holes in the processes, or, they'd send me something. I'm like, and I think it's just like a series of little things that people weren't respecting like the opinions I had. Because like, oh, you're just the VA. What do you know? I'm like, no, I have so much
Yeah, I
experience.
got
What are you talking
experience.
about?
Yeah.
I have worked with, many different businesses, and I have seen when businesses actually have their crap together and when they don't. But yeah, and then it was when they weren't respecting these ideas that I had, and they were like, oh, I don't care. I'm like, okay. Or when I had and I gave and they didn't recognize that it wasn't just a to-do list anymore. I was helping them strategically plan what they're doing for their launch or what they're doing for their course and their membership and how they're going to plan out all their everything for it. It was interesting to see. I think it was just a lot of little things. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be just a VA anymore.
I mean, it's so interesting because I like, you really stand out in my mind as we had many discussions, I think, at the beginning. And in retrospect, and especially hearing your clarity now, I understand now where that confusion was coming from, because I was like, on one hand, why doesn't she see it? Like, she's great. It's like this and it's like this, and you can have great clients and you can be making so much more money. Why are you so focused on serving these clients who, in my opinion, didn't really require or weren't at that level of needing an OBM? Now, flash forward, you're in accreditation, and naturally, I mean, the caveat here for those of you listening who are maybe straddling the VA OBM role, I mean, Milani, we can agree that it's a hard transition. It takes time. You're very,
Yes.
confused, but when you landed that real OBM client, and I remember when this happened in the accreditation, like what changed for you in that moment? Like what felt different about that client from the other ones? Because you worked with a lot of clients. Like what was that aha for you?
Well, from the get-go, I was in a more strategic position. Like within the first month, like they had an actual onboarding process. I hadn't worked with anyone for long enough period to like they had
That's a
their
green.
like, here, we're gonna introduce you to the company and because with this first client, I was over a part of the business. I wasn't the full, they weren't quite ready for a full OBM. So I was helping them with just their customer success and their customer retention. But like within like the first couple weeks, they were already asking for my opinions on things. Like they wanted me to get to know their systems, what processes they were using. It wasn't quite the traditional discovery calls. It was definitely, I think, good for me because I was able to really dive in and increase my confidence a bit. Yes. That was one of the big things that I needed and why I took this position in the first place. It took on this client was I wanted something that would build my confidence. And I was like, oh, I'll start with, helping manage one part of their business. And it's been amazing. Like I'm still working with them to this day. And like I have had to tell the CEO, hey, I think we need to redo this whole thing idea. Over the summer, they had an event that they did and they forgot to include something for their free. They've always done something free at their events and they forgot to include it. And so then I brought it up. Hey, in the original planning, we had something that was for free. And now that we've been going, it's not there anymore. And I thought they had done it intentionally, but it was so hard initially for me to speak up. But then I was like, why didn't I speak up sooner? Like it was one of those things it's been a great confidence builder to like, yes, I have value and I can speak up in these situations and tell them, hey, we need to maybe recognize this thing and plan around it or we need to change this thing or hey, we need to get some things organized. That's one of my things that I'm doing for them this fall is we're organizing certain parts of the business so that we can get off the ground running in the new year. It's like, and I'm part of this. We're starting our year-end planning like for the next year. We're already starting that and I have a voice and that's been huge.
That makes me literally just makes me so happy because this is exactly how I wanted you to come out on the other end, was just confident, knowing your worth, being in a position where you are sort of commanding, not respect, because it's not about like commanding respect, but like being that sounding piece. And also when you say something like, hey guys, where's the freebie that we always have as part of this event? And everyone's like, oh my God, we all overlooked that. Like that is, really putting you into that very much that big picture. So it's lovely to see. Like, I feel like you're your energy is very different in your business. And it's very much this CEO mindset shift. And then, albeit another caveat here is that you have two little ones. What's it when you joined Accelerator? So, did you have the baby in Accelerator or in accreditation?
I had the baby just before I joined Accelerator.
Right.
So I was,
I remember you were like, should I do this? I'm having a baby. Am I insane? And I was like, no, this is great. Babies don't walk usually for the first 6 months or crawl. So you'll be good. You'll have, a cute little blob to snuggle with, and you can, do the work on the side.
Many sleepless nights, but it's so interesting because now that they're older and they have their own room and other things. Not that matters. Both my boys like to wake up multiple times a night, and I'm like, whatever. But I have always been a morning person, right? And so what I actually do now is that I make sure I have that time with them.
Huge.
I'm up at 3 or 4 in the morning, getting a couple hours in. And, some people probably think that's crazy, but I've always enjoyed those quiet morning hours. And now that I can I don't have a baby to feed and I'm like tired, I'm like, I go to bed earlier and wake up and I enjoy that time. Yeah. It's great. It's great.
Yeah. You're a little bit on the cuckoo scale a little bit because we have our accreditation call for the Australians and Europeans at 3 a.m. Eastern?
Yeah, 3 or 2.
And Milani sometimes pops up on those calls and I'm like, oh my God, what time is it for you? But I get it because I am the opposite. I'm a night owl. So I will be up till 3 o'clock in the morning and then I'll be like, oh my God, are these real ideas or am I just spitting out, losing my mind at this point? I don't know.
Yeah.
You have really, it's been a transition, not just in the role, but in your revenue. And, I know that we don't really want to hinge too much on, the financial piece of this. And obviously you don't have to say anything that you're not comfortable saying, but it has been a significant difference for you. That you're investing in your office and in your life and in, with your kids, but it's seems to me like it's very much night and day from how it was.
Yes, I had the space to have an office and I sometimes used it. Also served as a storage room and we didn't have a lock on the door. We had a hole in the door for a while. It's a story for another time. But it went from it wasn't intentional and I was working at the kitchen table because I had to watch my kids to now my office door gets locked. I get to sit in here. I just bought a sit-stand desk and a walking pad because I'm sitting here and I need something and I have yet to use it. This is a brand new thing we just bought, but it's something I want to start. It's so funny when one aspect of your life improves, you generally want to improve the other aspects as well. And so it's just a natural progression. And so now that my business is less stressful. It still is stressful. Do not get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's a different kind of stress. I think one of my mentors in the past said that once you hit a certain point, it's you have troubles, but they're different kinds of troubles. And I'd rather have the prosperity troubles than the scarcity troubles. And,
amen.
And I agree with that. That the problems that I face now is more of I don't have time to take on another client. Even though they want to hire me.
I own OBM and that
I actually am in the works. I just hired my first VA. Yes. And it's I'm assigning their first tasks this week and they're going to help me I've decided I'm only accepting one-time little OBM's probably more strategic projects right now because I have a good roster of retainer clients. Right now, I've booked a couple speaking gigs. This is the first one. I have 3 more this fall.
That's incredible.
At some different summits. This is the only podcast one I'm doing, but I want to start getting my name out there and build a community, or I don't know if community is the right word, but where I can go and say, hey, I have a space open, and everyone's me. Instead of me being I need someone who wants help. That's the shift in that is I'm being so much more intentional about how I'm growing my business. And that is what this VA is going to help me do. She's also going to help me with just keeping things organized in my own life. And I am not a graphic designer and by any means. She's much more better at that.
Visual, yeah.
So
Visual.
she's gonna
Yeah.
help with the visual things, and I'll make sure that the copy is correct, and but then she'll help post on social media for me and help me do things that I just either don't have time for or just don't want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that you are growing your team. I think that that is like the perfect example of good business problems to have. Yes, it is
yes,
more time and it is something that you have to deliberate over and work on. And then you always have that feeling of like, what if I don't hire the right person, right? There's always like factors and it's your business this time. You're not hiring on behalf of someone else's business where
exactly.
the stakes are higher. But I think that is so fantastic. I'm just really proud of you. I think the fact that you are hiring VAs, you are getting out and you are doing guest expert sessions. That is the number one way to get to position yourself in a way that just breeds and brings in more and more and more clients. So that is so fantastic to hear. So I know you mentioned that you are a morning person and you like to wake up with the kiddies and have that flexibility, but what does a typical day look like in your business for those people who are maybe making the VA transition or still in corporate, but want to get an idea of like, what is it? What kinds of things do I do as an OBM? What does it look like in a typical day?
So usually my day. So once I'm up and I have fully awoken, sometimes there's mornings that does not happen as early as that's just the life of having kids. I usually have a quiet moment to myself and then I'll hop on and it depends on the day and what kind of is happening with different clients. I'll either do a couple of hours of some client work. I'll schedule emails if I have anything to send. I'm like, because no one else is awake at that time. But it's great because I'm 2 hours
Scheduling
behind.
your reports to clients ahead of time so that you're not
Yes.
at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's
They don't want this at 4 o'clock, whether it's a report or whether, I do
using
occasionally.
Google to schedule your emails, my friends. That's a great tip.
It is. I'm like, because it's like, I'm like, I know that they're not going to be awake and I don't need them to know that they're always up this early because, some people do. It's funny.
Boundaries.
Exactly. And that's actually one of the things. It's like, I do sometimes work on the weekends just because life got busy in the middle of the week. And so I'll schedule the email to send like Monday morning. If I'm up at like Saturday evening, I'm like, I should probably let them know that I'm not working the weekend, even though I've made it known. I'm like, hey, if there's an emergency, and most of my clients know that, but true emergencies, it's always my discretion. And I let them know that. I'm like, I'm usually busy on the weekend, but I do sometimes work. If I see your message and if I am working, I will get back to you. Otherwise, it's Monday to Friday.
You will hear from me on Monday. So you mentioned the client work, like the couple hours of client work in the mornings. Like, what does client work look like typically?
Yeah. So right now I have one main retainer client, and that's the one that I got back in February. And right now they just ended their really busy season, which is summer is usually a slower season, but for them, summer is the busy season because they serve teachers and it's the back to school. And so it was a lot of, setting up projects for what we're doing. They do a lot of their enrollments at that time. They do their launches at that time. And so it was just making sure things were in place, making sure that things were getting done, making sure that if there were tasks that I was assigned specifically, I was getting those done. And it was just, now that phase is past, we're actually redoing some of the SOPs in regards to that because there were pieces that were missing that caused a few fires.
Operating procedures, that's always a good.
Yes, and it was just like, there were just like little pieces that were left out. They had one of the nice things about coming into this particular position and why I thought it was a really good stepping stone is it was good for me to build my confidence, especially in like team management and like working with like, I think it's the biggest business I have worked with.
Yeah, revenue wise.
Yeah. Good. I mean, there may have been bigger ones, but I was not ever aware of like the back end of like how much they were actually making. And they certainly didn't have as big of a team as this business has. Usually they were just hiring a VA or two. Like it was not, this one has actual dedicated team members. So a lot of the things I do are just, helping with the streamlining of those processes, planning out different projects that I'm in charge of I was thinking what I was doing this morning. I just spent a morning assigning out some tasks for different projects that are upcoming. And then we're also starting our year-end planning. So just going through and looking, I'm starting to really enjoy tech and data a lot. So we're looking at implementing AI in a variety of different ways. And so I'm going in and learning about some of those things, looking at how it would apply to the business, thinking about, it's interesting. I do a lot of thinking and strategy and planning versus when I was a VA, it was just the to-do list, like go do this, go do that. And I do some things, right? I don't not do things, but I do different things. And the things I do are a lot more strategic in nature. And it's not just a to-do list, if that makes sense.
To me, it makes perfect sense. I hope it makes sense to our listeners as well. And
like instead of being given a checklist,
yeah,
I'm making the checklist, and I might do a couple things on that checklist. And I think that was one of the big things that I struggled with, understanding what an OBM actually does versus what a VA does. An OBM can do the VA tasks. Like that's not, it took me a while to understand that, but I don't have to.
right.
There's someone in theory that I should be able to assign those tasks to. And I'm doing more of the managerial, making sure it's been assigned, making sure it's been done, following up. But yeah, I still have things that I do just because it's the nature of small businesses.
There's always something to implement. I always tell people that, like, it's great in theory. Yeah, all I do is manage and plan and
but I do tasks. To be transparent, I do some of the stuff that I'm planning out, but I'm also planning it out.
Right.
And I think that's the key difference is I'm in charge of how it's being planned and the strategy behind it versus just making a little to-do list and going and doing it. Because I did that as a VA, but never to this with the strategy behind it and having the data to back it up. And that's been interesting and something I've been really enjoying.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Milani, it's been such a pleasure speaking with you. And honestly, it has been such an interesting endeavor to see you go through your journey and with the babies and now telling me your eldest is starting kindergarten and it's just like, it's so amazing for me because I think as I become a more seasoned entrepreneur, I get to look back at journeys like yours and be like, wow, what a transformation. It's not just the financial transformation. I feel like that's the obvious transformation, but it's also in your mannerisms and how you show up and how you are so confidently speaking about how you take the reins in your clients' businesses as versus, what it was like back before before the accelerator, even having those conversations. I remember I was like, Milani, you need this. You need to come in here. I know you've got babies, you're going to have more babies, but you got to start here. And and just the clients and it's not about the confusion, but it was like the clients and the overwhelm and will this work to the now? I'm clear. I'm hiring. I'm doing expert sessions. It's just such a spectacular transformation. And, and then it's great because, you're here, you're on the podcast today. We're going to be in the YouTube channel. If somebody is looking for an OBM and they want to work with someone fantastic like you, how can they find you online?
They can go to my website. That's probably the best place to find me.
Yeah,
which is my name. Or are we putting it in
put it in the show notes? But yeah, go ahead and
sure. It's milanilau.com. It's not anything fancy. It's just me right now, and it's one of the things I'm going to have to decide. Like as I get bigger and grow, I need to look at, am I going to incorporate and will I be changing that? Because that's just what I've done for a long time, but it's never something I thought I'd change. And guess what? I might be changing that. But for now, that's where they can find me. And I don't think I'd ever take that down. That might just shift to having another website front with maybe a more sophisticated name.
Yeah. To just have that. That's great. I mean, again, another good problem to have, right?
Yes, another good problem to have.
Yeah. So Milani's story is such a great example of what it means to grow into the OBM role, to stop undervaluing what you bring to the table and start building a business that works for you and not the other way around. She didn't wait until everything was perfect, certainly. And she did say yes to the right clients, got the support she needed, and started putting her own systems in place. And now, she's doing strategic, high impact work for clients that she actually wants to work with and has the breathing room to enjoy the season of life that she's in. So whether you are still doing VA work, burnt out from the hustle, or just craving more alignment, this is your reminder that you can pivot. You can shift, and it doesn't have to be an all or nothing overnight thing. If this episode hit home, tag us on Instagram at the OBM School. I'd love to hear your takeaways, or at Sarah Noked. Until next time, my friends, keep building the business of your dreams, the one that you can build by design. And I will see you in the next episode.